Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone? This is the Alicia Johnson YouTube channel, and I am Alicia Johnson. I think I need to have some like sound effects or something, with the rah in the background or something, people clapping and all of that. I'll look into that. I think that's an option so that I can hear the people. But anyway, hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to those of you who have been joining us for this forgiveness work. And for those of you who are finding us by replay or by referral or just stumbling upon us, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name, once again, is Alicia Johnson, and I am the creator of a community called the 1212 community. And that community is dedicated to helping everyone who chooses to learn how to recalibrate their lives 12 hours for God and 12 hours for man. And one of the tools that we use in this process is the journal. And so, journaling, the way that we do it in this community is not your mama's journaling. It is not rehashing the past. It is not venting. It is not a whole lot of frustration. We journal here to get results. And so this brings us to tonight's work. Forgiving ourselves. So we are journaling now for 30 days. We're now at day 17 of this 30-day journaling process. And don't worry if you are just finding out about us. The other journaling, let's see, challenge questions or prompts are all archived. So you can go back and find days 1 through 16, and you can at your leisure catch up to join us. And you can feel free to share it. It's here for everyone. Forgiveness for everyone, because it is such a crucial tool as it relates to your growth, as it relates to the spiritual maturation process, as it relates to growing beyond your perceived limitations. So, with that being said, we're going to dive right on into today's work, and we are now at day 17. Day 17, we are forgiving ourselves for being fearful. Assignment. Reread your dedication so that you will remain pinpoint accurate in your journaling focus. Take inventory today of all the times you have allowed fear to prevent you from doing the things that heaven required. Why? Understanding your reason for fear in any area of your life will free you exponentially. Benefit. Knowing where and how you have allowed fear to restrict your growth will assist you as you move more solidly into creating your new life. God has not given us a spirit of fear. So if you are encountering fear in any area of your life, it is important that you move past it, because you now know that it comes to prevent you from moving higher. Fear is simply a ruse. Day 17. Forgiving yourself for being fearful. This is a very important lesson for everyone. The Bible teaches us that God has not given us a spirit of fear. So grab a clue. Fear is a spirit. Okay, it's a spirit. It is a spirit that did not come from God. So if it did not come from God, then it means that it came from another realm of heaven. There are many realms to heaven, okay? And so a lot of times I think that we have been taught erroneously or given a lot of misinformation, because when we think of heaven, a lot of us just think of heaven with angels and cherubs and fluffy clouds and all good and lovely things. But there are different realms of heaven that need to be passed through before you go into like the holy of holies, before you go into the higher realms of understanding. And so this gives us an idea that the spirit realm operates at a lower level, and it operates at a very fearful level. And when God began to deal with me on this, it became very exciting for me, because it helped me to understand and to really take control of the fact that I can control fear in my life. A lot of times we look at fear as something that is placed on us, some a state that we're placed in. And so you are placed in an environment where you are forced to be afraid. You are put under duress so that you are forced to be afraid. And this, for the most part, is how the world has conditioned most of us to do the things that the world needs us to do because of fear. Fear moves people, fear gets reactions from people, fear forces you to act first and think later. And that's what the world wants. Once the world gets the reaction out of you, that's your responsibility to clean that thing up. The world doesn't care after the fact. And when God began to help me to slow down enough to dissect this and to truly understand what fear was and what fear is not, I had to really take inventory of all of the areas of my life that were constructed out of fear. And if you have time, but it behooves you greatly to take the time to just read Job. Job teaches us a lot about fear. The book of Job teaches us, and the one thing that really stuck out for me, because when you read the book of Job and you start to understand how privileged he was and how connected he was, and even with all of the resources that he had, fear still came upon him. And when all of this destruction and devastation started to happen, he openly admitted, like, the thing that I have feared the most has come upon me. And so, knowing that if you have resources, or even if you don't have resources, fear is an ever present condition in the lives of men and women. And it is very important that we begin to understand how to eradicate fear from our lives. Now, it's good to have like a healthy sense of fear as it relates to like falling off of things, or, injuring yourself. Like, you need to have a healthy fear of knives. You need to have a healthy fear of fire. You need to have a healthy fear of things that can cause major destruction. That makes sense. But normally, the fears that we deal with on a daily basis are so irrational, so irrational. And this is when God began to deal with me on eradicating irrational fear. Every day of my life, up until I would say probably my mid to late 30s, I was fearful every day, fearful of something every day. And that was taking a toll on my mental state. That was taking a toll on my physical state. That was taking a toll on my life. And these were irrational fears: fear of rushing to work and the fear of getting into an accident, the fear of rushing to work and being stopped by the cops, the fear of getting to the metro and getting on the train, and the fear that the train will be delayed and then I'll be late for work. The fear of being late for work and the fear of my boss needing something as soon as I walked in and I wouldn't be able to produce it. The fear of not having enough hours in the day to complete everything I needed to complete. The fear that my kids were not going to act right in school and I'm constantly on edge waiting for a phone call. The fear, all of the fears. I mean, it was just like one day after the next was just one big ball of fear. And it began to dawn on me how quickly time was slipping by. And God began to help me to understand that fear robs you of time. Fear robs you of time. And when God began to show me what this looks like, fear takes you so far out of the present moment because you are fearing the potential of what could be that you're missing what's happening right now. It was awful. Day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And I'll never forget. I was walking to the metro, and this was, I think it was, I was like 39 turning 40. And I never forget this. And this was like my husband and I, this was the time we were in a very bad place. And I was afraid. All of the things, literally, I felt like Job. All of the things that I had feared were coming upon me. Everything that I was fearing. For those of you who have followed this work for a minute, for those of you who haven't, our relationship issues are no big secret. Okay. So I'm not sitting up here telling anything like, oh my God. But our relationship was not really good. And it was because I initiated like the dysfunction. Like it was dysfunctional behind the scenes, but it's like I just brought it to the forefront. Like, boom, here it is. And so when all of that happened, everything just started to really kind of go downhill. And that's when the fear really started to increase. So all of the fear that I had as it related to being able to pay the bills, being able to keep afraid to lose, like you're gonna lose your job, afraid. I don't know. Y'all let me know. Are these some of the fears that you guys have dealt with? But it's just a constant fear of everything. And then the fear of, okay, now that I did my thing, is my husband going to cheat now? The fear of that. And then when these things do start to happen, what do? And I was 39, I was getting ready to turn 40. And all of these things were just like snowballing. It was just, it was like an avalanche. And I remember I was on the cell phone and I talked to my husband and I was on the phone with him. And I remember saying, I don't even know if he remembers me saying this, but I was like, I am not carrying this mess into my 40s. I'm not going to do it. I am not carrying this into another decade. I'm not doing this anymore. This is absolutely ridiculous. When you make up your mind to do something different, you have to realize that everything that you have built on that dysfunction or on that fear or on that whatever you've built it on, whatever foundation that is, once you stop feeding that foundation, once you stop supporting that foundation, everything is going to fall apart because the foundation is no longer being supported. And that was new territory for me. When you're so accustomed to living in fear and fear has become your foundation, finding your voice outside of fear is like foreign territory. It's like you've entered into a foreign land. And you're not going to go from being fearful to not being fearful overnight. So you're not going to go from 0 to 60 overnight. It's a conscious decision. Every freaking decision is a conscious decision. It's like, I will not be afraid. I will not be afraid. I will not be afraid. I will speak my mind. I will speak my mind. I'm not afraid of losing a friendship. I am not afraid of losing a relationship. I am not afraid of losing my job. I'm not afraid of doing. So you constantly have to talk to yourself, okay? Because it's not going to come naturally. It's not going to come naturally. But the key to the forgiveness work was that I literally had to go into every area of my life and forgive myself for being fearful. Because forgiveness saturates the atmosphere. Forgiveness gives clues and sends signals to your angels to now let them know what direction you're moving in. Forgiveness is a very powerful tool. And when you forgive yourself, that is worth its weight in gold because absolutely no one can hold anything over your head when you forgive yourself. And what God began to show me is that a lot of the things that I was fearful of, I was fearful because I was not operating in spirit and truth in those areas. So I was fearful that I would kind of be found out. I was fearful that maybe, okay, so you know how the world teaches fake it till you make it. Fake it, just fake it till you make it. And in a lot of instances, that's how I was living life. I was just faking it till I made it. I was pretending to like certain friendships that I didn't like. I was pretending to like activities that I didn't like because eventually maybe I will. Like, I don't know. I just don't want to cause any waves. I don't want to, ruffle any feathers. But on the inside, I am literally dying. Do you know how many meals I've eaten in restaurants with people that I do not like? And I couldn't even enjoy the food. And I love some food. I couldn't even enjoy the food or digest the food well because inside I'm cringing. Like, this is the last time I go out to dinner with you. Send that salad back one more time. Stop complaining about everything. You knew we were coming to a steakhouse, so why would you think that they weren't gonna have steak? I mean, steak everything, okay? They're not known for chicken. They're not known for their seafood. This is a steakhouse. Meat, okay, red meat. And I was too afraid, if you will, to speak my mind. So I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Going on vacations with people that I didn't necessarily care for. And being afraid to speak my mind on vacations that I am paying money for myself. They didn't pay for the vacations, I paid for the vacations. So I have technically paid to be miserable and taking my leave. But I'm too afraid to say anything because I'm fearful that you may get mad with me. I'm afraid that you won't be my friend anymore. That's how I live my life. It was absolutely pathetic. At work, knowing something or knowing that something went a certain way, but because this person is a supervisor, this person is a manager, you don't want to say anything because I don't want to be considered insubordinate. I just don't want to. I know that I do know the answer to, but I don't want to say anything because it may not come out right. Craziness. Once I made the decision that I'm not going to spend the rest of my life living through these scenarios. Absolutely no one knows how many days they have on this planet. Nobody knows. Even people that have been given like a window of time, like you're going to be here for 6 months, they don't even know that. Some people have been given a 6-month diagnosis, they live 10 years longer. Come on, you just don't know. But I do know that my time here on earth is not infinite. I do know that there is an expiration date, and I do know that I will not waste 1 second of time from that point on when before I turn 40, like right at my 40s. I'm not going to do this being fearful. I'm not going to do this anymore being fearful. So when you release your fear, be prepared. Everything that was feeding off of your fear, because God showed me when this was so powerful. Every relationship that I had was feeding off of my fear. I was keeping them well fed. It was like a smorgasbord around me. Oh, we can just get her. She'll do it. She that fear. And then when I looked at all of my friends, they all had the same personality types. Very domineering, very dominant, very outspoken, just like bullies almost. And when I made my mind up, it was almost like a transfusion, or just like an influx of life. Like everything just started to look new. And it was very powerful when God began to give me examples and ways to practice my lack of fear. Because you're not going to come out hitting a home run every time. But every new opportunity that heaven gives you, you take it. So I got excited. Like when God would peel away the old friendships, that was exciting because it was like shedding old skin. Like God is like, I'm releasing you of this so you don't have to deal with that anymore. Now, whatever you bring in after this, you have to be very conscious of the fact that you're bringing it in a very fearless way. All of the relationships I had, I fear none of my relationships. You say something to me, I'm going to say something back to you. Okay. Oh, we going like that? Okay. You don't like this? Well, I don't like that. You never, ever, ever have to worry about what I'm thinking at this point. My husband and I, we used to be like that. Now we say everything, anything to each other now. But our relationship at one point was like I don't know. I don't even know if he's on here. I think he's on here, but it was like the fear, like I was afraid. Like when he would walk into a room, like, you still mad with me? You still mad? I would follow him around like a little puppy dog. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And it was almost like he was feeding off of that. And it was like every time, like I would like try to, I was fearful of, is he gonna leave me? Is he gonna leave me with the kids? Is he gonna leave me with the bills? Is he gonna? So I was in constant fear. But I was in that fear because I knew that I had done wrong. See, a lot of times we're in fear because we know that we've done wrong in a certain area and we think that this is like some sort of a penance, like we deserve this. Well, I did this. I guess this is just coming back. Stop. Stop. Once heaven forgives you, you are forgiven. We punish ourselves much longer than heaven ever intended. And that's what God was showing me. I was so fearful that I was going to be left with the kids, left with the mortgage, left with, afraid that my job was going to let me go, afraid of this, afraid. Oh, it was awful. And I was carrying all these burdens because I felt guilty. I felt guilty. Same thing at work. I was fearful because you know how at work you like know you got to do something, but you really don't feel like doing it, or you don't like doing it, or it's not your favorite thing to do, and you just keep putting it off, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. So when people start to make you feel like, when people start to say stuff and you start to feel nervous and you start to get fearful, you're not necessarily fearful of what they're probably going to say to you. You're fearful that they're going to find out that you really haven't done what you're supposed to. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So when God began to deal with me on this, God was like, the only reason you're fearful is because the devil loves a secret. The devil loves a secret. And when God began to reveal that to me, I started telling it all. Mm-mm. Because see, the enemy holds these little secrets and all of this little stuff over your head. So you just like, that's why the word, you got to keep your head on a swivel, keep your head. Why? Because you don't know if your dirt coming back to you, or is it past dirt, or is it future dirt? And so God had to teach me how to clean up my act. And that is where this entire journal, this forgiveness work, is part of that process. I've been doing this work for a long time. A very long time. Very, very, very long time. So there are very few stories that people can tell me that I haven't heard one yet that would sway my, how can I put it, determined attitude as it relates to changing your life. Like, you can change your life with the proper tools. You can change your life with the proper attitude. Because what we have to understand is that there are different levels of truth. And I'd like to share this story about truth and to understand, like, truth is like, if, okay, let's take for example, you walk out your front door and you're standing in your front yard. You walk to the edge of the yard, you're looking up and down the street, and what you see is like nothing's on the street. It's good. You go up to your second floor and you can see further down the street. So what you thought was true at the first level, at the yard view, at the first floor level, is different now at the second floor level. If you go up on the roof or if you have a third floor, then your vantage point is even greater. And this is what heaven was showing me. Heaven was showing me that I was operating at the lowest level of truth available to me in my life. It was low. It was so low. It was ridiculous. But it was true at the time. Fear was a part of that. Uncertainty was a part of that. Sadness was a part of that. Depression was a part of that. If those are buzzwords for you, anxiety, depression, sadness, fear, all of those things, that is an indicator to me that you are operating at one of the lowest levels that's available to you. And that is very good. When you come to that understanding, because you realize that I have options here. I have options here. What I believe to be true at this level doesn't necessarily mean that it's true at the next level. Let me see what this next level is. And this is where the work begins. See, you cannot be healed in the same time frame that you've been hurt. And when God began to deal with me on this one, this was very powerful because I was very fearful between man's time. And so, what we teach in this community is 12 hours for God and 12 hours for man. Man's time was chewing me up and spitting me out. And by man's time, I mean 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And so, God was like, if you were hurt, if you were fearful, let's say there was a meeting at work at 3 p.m. and you got chewed out or you were just embarrassed or whatever, you're not going to go back at 3 p.m. at the same time and expect your healing. This is why it's 12 hours for God and 12 hours for man. So God was like, if you were hurt at 3 p.m., then your healing is at 3 a.m. I was like, what? This is why it's very important that you learn to seek God first in all things. All of the fear and everything that you're encountering in the world can be countered in God's economy if you learn how to calibrate your hearing and calibrate your, how can I put it, your clock, the internal clock, your internal gauge. You've got to learn to recalibrate your life and learn how to use God's time to heal all of the hurts that you've experienced in the world. So these sessions here are designed to be short and sweet. So we go from like 8 to 8:30. And we do that in the evening so that you have some powerful information to use before you close your day. So the idea is that from 8 to 8:30 you get the opportunity to kind of enter into your reflection, and then from 8:30 until you have your nighttime routine where you reflect on the lesson, where as you're entering into the close of your day, when you start to sleep, when you start to dream, heaven has some powerful information to work with. I've had people that have started to do this work who did not dream before. And now I get texts, but girl, I had a dream. I done had like three, I had three dreams this morning. I had four dreams this week. Oh my goodness. Because heaven wants to communicate with us, but because the world has us so overstimulated that heaven is trying to get in where it can fit in. So make it easy for heaven to reach you. Make it easy for heaven to find you. Make it easy for heaven to help you to change. And one of the easiest things that you can do is to trade in your fear for fearlessness. I don't know what it is that you have to do or what areas you are fearful of, but I challenge you tonight to put that fear on notice. There is no reason you should be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, not fearing anything, because God is the ultimate determiner of how things work out. Sure, I may work for a particular company, but God is ultimately controlling the plan for me and for them. Touch not thy anointed and do thy servant no harm. So if I am released from anything, then I know that I have been released because God has released me. It has absolutely nothing to do with you. You were merely the vessel that was used. You know, I can have your job. Okay. Pay attention. When you are operating in God's economy, there is no need to be fearful of anything because heaven counts the cost of everything involved. When heaven does something, honestly, it is a win-win for everyone. Even if it looks like a loss, it's still a win in heaven's economy. But if you are entering into a space where you are fearful that if I get this promotion, then they're gonna have to fire that person, or if I move here, then this is gonna happen. If I move there, you don't want any part of that. I worked with this woman one time. It was I was grateful that God allowed me to be a part of this conversation, but it was it made me so mad. So she lived in the city, and she and her husband were looking to buy a house. And they were very smart people, and they knew real estate and all of that, and they had their eye on a house in the neighborhood. They were and it was an older lady that lived in the house, and they were watching it online, and they were, trying to keep up with the taxes and making sure, like, if she doesn't pay her taxes on this, then we're just, we're gonna get the house, we're gonna take it right from her. I was like, how ugly is that? I hope the house burns down. This was Alicia Johnson. I was not that deep into this work at the time. I hope y'all get the house, and I hope y'all lose the house. That's how ugly that is. But they thought, and the strategy was that in order for them to win, someone had to lose. That's how the world is set up. And that is not how we have to live. We have to be the ones to change the standard. We have to be the ones to change the narrative. But the only way we're going to be able to do that is to not be fearful of what other people are going to think. That was one of the things, especially with this work that I do, because I run in a lot of different circles and everything, and it's a lot of hustlers and grinders out here. Hustle and grind, hustle and grind, hustle and grind. Um, I like naps. I'm not doing that. At one point, I would have been afraid to speak up so I wouldn't look like a sore thumb, so I wouldn't stick out, so people wouldn't talk. I don't care. Talk about me. The way my sciatica set up, the way I ain't sleeping in nobody's airport. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it. Mm-mm. And I'm not sleeping in a hotel less than a certain ranking. I'm not doing that. My quality of sleep means a lot to me. I need to have certain food. I like food. Okay. I want good food. Like there's just certain things at this point in my life I am not going to compromise because I am afraid of what you're going to think of me. I don't care. So ask yourself tonight, are you more afraid of what people are going to say or think? Or are you more afraid of not living the fulfilled life that heaven has for you because you are afraid of man? I made that decision. I was like, I ain't afraid of no man. Nope. God, I want every morsel of what you have for me. Nothing less. I pray that I do not leave this earth. I'm gonna have every like when I leave this earth, people are like, she had a good time. She had people gonna be coming to my like I ain't, you know what? I ain't even mad. I ain't even mad. Oh my gosh, she had a good time. And that's what I want to say about everybody. That you had a good time. Everyone, literally everyone in my life right now that is close to me, there's no fear. Like I am creating an environment that is joy. If it's not joy, if it's not peace, if it's not love, if it's not support, if it's not advancement, it has no room in my life. And I am not afraid to say that. But it took me some years to get to that point to say, no, this your vibe is off. Like, no, it's just too heavy. I just, why you so heavy? Because I have to make those corrections real quick because I do not have the time. I don't have a whole lot of time to do rework. See, in your 20s, that's cute. Like, you in your 20s, you think you got some time to waste. In your 30s, like you start having kids and stuff like that. And then in your 40s, like when you're on the other side of the grill, like at one point you're on the side playing and hanging out and talking and all of that stuff. And then when you're on the other side of the grill, when you buying the food and flipping the burgers and making go in there and check and see if it's some ice in there. Go see this, go see. That's when you know you're running out of time. You don't have a whole lot of time for rework. So I'm gonna close with this tonight. What side of the grill are you on? Y'all gonna be thinking about that later. What side of the grill am Anyway, y'all, thank you so much for showing up this evening. We will be back again tomorrow night. Once again, for those of you who are just joining us, feel free to check out all of the replays so that you can catch up. We will be here every night, Monday through Friday, 8 to 8:30 p.m. And we will go deeper and deeper into the forgiveness work. Share it with people. Everyone deserves forgiveness. Everyone deserves to live the best life available to them. So feel free, please subscribe to the channel so that you get all of the updates. And we're going to have a whole lot of different stuff here on YouTube. I'm very excited, all of the ideas that God is giving me. And so I'll be here and be radically obedient. And I pray that you will too. I love you all, and I'll see you all tomorrow night.